Hey guys, this is Danny with Patrick Adair Supplies, here to make this September ring box. This one is kind of fossil themed. We're going to be using some dinosaur bones and some other special materials to kind of show off the fossils that were lost at sea. That's kind of the look that we're going for. So let's go ahead and get started, and I'll show you all the inlay materials. First up, we have our Maui blue color pigment. This is just a really nice blue. It reminds me a lot of the ocean off of Florida and in the Caribbean, just that really nice pale blue that the ocean takes on sometimes. And I think it's a really nice, pretty color pigment to work with. Next up, we have our blue fire opal. This is a really cool one to work with because of how nice of a blue it is, but it still gives off some pinks and some reds and some purples, which I think is really interesting to see coming from a blue opal. And I really love the contrast between the blue and the pinks and the purples in there. So I really enjoy working with this one. I think it's going to go really well with the Maui blue opal and the dinosaur bones that we have in this ring. The dinosaur bones are our next ingredient. Those ones are going to be just kind of a nice brown color. It's hard to really describe these in a cool way besides just that they're dinosaurs. So they lived on the earth millions of years ago and have since turned into fossils. And we're lucky enough to find little scraps and pieces of them and be able to use them in our rings. So these ones are really cool to work with, most of all for the sentimental value that they add to each and every ring that they're in. Next we have apatite, which is just a really nice transparent blue color. It's going to help us add a little bit of depth where our other materials won't add any depth. They'll just add different textures and colors. This will help us see into the ring a little bit and help create a little bit of another dimension to the ring. So I really like working with materials like this, and apatite's one of my favorites, mostly because it's easy to Dremel through if I'm being honest. So I enjoy working with it. It's easy to work with, and I love the look that it adds to every ring that it's in. Next, we have our blue glow powder. I really love the combo of a blue daytime color pigment and a blue glow. Something about it just makes me happy. And this month's freebie is our Inferno opal. It's a really nice darker opal. It adds a lot of yellows and oranges and reds, and it would be a really interesting opal to add to this ring if you'd like. I chose not to, just because I really wanted to preserve the blue and then have the contrast coming from the dinosaur bone rather than coming from another source. So I decided to leave it out this month, but it is your freebie and it's a really cool opal, and I'm excited to see what you guys use it for. For this month's ring, we're going to be working with a white ceramic ring blank. So this one, as you'll notice, doesn't have any inlay channel. It's just a pure liner. So we're going to be doing something that at Patrick Adair Designs we call our Boundless series. So this ring is going to be just built on top of the white ceramic ring blank, and this really allows us to add a lot of depth and dimension to our ring because the inlay area is just so much larger. So it's going to be really interesting because we can pack in a lot more material here, and I really love how these rings look. It really helps show off the different colors of the opal because you just get so many more angles on it, and it really allows us to show off the inlay materials. They become the main focus. You don't ever get distracted by your ring blank, and honestly, they're my favorite ones to make. I think that they're just a lot of fun. And I'm excited to help you guys through this process. We've done one before several months ago. It was our Supernova ring. That was the first boundless ring we ever introduced. And this is going to be our second here at Patrick Adair Supplies. So I'm really excited to help you guys through this one, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. As always, our first step is just going to be to combine our daytime color pigment and our glow powder. So I'm just doing 2 or 3 scoops of the color pigment, and then I'm going to be adding a bit more than that of the glow powder. I like to do about 1/3 of the color pigment to 2/3 of the glow powder. I think that gives it a nice consistency. It really helps preserve the color of the daytime color pigment, and it allows us to have enough glow powder in the mixture that it glows really strongly when you charge it up. So I think that's kind of a good ratio, is about 1/3 to 2/3. You could always add a little bit less color pigment or a little bit more based on what tone of color you're looking for, but that's what I usually go for. After that, I'm going to combine the apatite and the blue fire opal. I like to mix the opal with the apatite just because it helps create some randomness. It really just makes it so that they are spread throughout the ring randomly but fairly evenly, since it's a gram of each that I'm mixing together. So I just mix them together in a mixing vial as well. Next, we'll put the ring blank on our mandrel. Since it is a white ceramic ring blank, I always tape up the mandrel. It just helps protect it a little bit. Despite being incredibly scratch resistant and lightweight, it can shatter if you over tighten your mandrel, and the electrical tape just helps a little bit with that process. It kind of insulates it a little bit from the pressure. Okay, our first step today is going to be to inlay our dinosaur bone. So I'm taking our thick CA adhesive and adding a dab onto the ring blank, and then I'm just placing a piece of dinosaur bone there and securing it into place with that color pigment mixture. So I'm just going around the ring, adding enough color pigment to secure it into place and absorb into that CA adhesive, thus not allowing it to move around as I inlay more and more pieces. For this step, add as many pieces of dinosaur bone as you like. I like the pieces to be a little bit less densely placed, so I only did, I should count them, but I probably did 10 pieces, and I just kind of placed them randomly from side to side on the ring. With the boundless rings, to make sure that you can see all of the inlay materials, you want to look for bigger pieces of dinosaur bone. So you're not looking for really small ones and just kind of propping them against the edge of the inlay channel like you would with a standard inlay glowstone inlay ring, but I'm looking for bigger pieces that will stick up and really take up space. That way when I start filling in and shaping this ring, you'll still be able to see the dinosaur bone. Next, we're going to be adding our opal and apatite mixture. For this, I'm using our medium CA adhesive, and we're going to be filling in the gaps between the dinosaur bones here. So what I'm doing is I'm just putting a little bit of the medium CA adhesive in between the pieces of dinosaur bone. I go like a quarter of the ring at a time, and then I'll pour on the opal and apatite, and then I'll cover it with the color pigment mixture just to also lock it into place. We're going to go all the way around the ring, repeating that step with the opal and apatite until we've covered up the whole inlay channel. We're going to do several layers of our super thin CA adhesive, so I'm adding a couple drops while the lathe is spinning until I can see a little bubble of the super thin CA adhesive forming on the bottom of my ring, and then we'll spray a tiny bit of our accelerator from 8 to 10 inches away and just allow it to sit and cure. That way we create a really clear layer of our super thin that doesn't have any air bubbles forming inside of it, and it allows us to create those nice clear layers that will give us that depth that we're looking. Once we've allowed it to cure, we're going to do layers of super thin CA adhesive, and the reason I don't just pile on a lot of the color pigment is I really love the look of having the opal and apatite and the dinosaur bones sunk down a little bit and not having them completely surrounded by color pigment. It's a little bit hard to visualize, but basically the color pigment will be like 1/2 millimeter below the tops of the inlay materials, and this just allows us to have a little bit more depth and a little bit more texture on our ring. So we're going to be adding just layers of our super thin CA adhesive until we fill up all of the cracks and crevices that were formed by our inlay materials. Next, we're going to be shaping our ring. So to do that, I like to take the Dremel once again, and I'm going to put bevels on the ring by holding the Dremel at a 45 or 50 degree angle and just dremeling a nice edge all the way around the ring. This allows us to create that nice domed shape that we're looking for with our boundless rings, and it allows us to ensure that all of our inlay materials are dremeled and very evenly shaped. If you can't have your ring blank right on the edge of the mandrel, I'll do this a lot of the time when I'm just holding the ring. I'll hold it in my hand and do the same process just by holding the ring close to my chest and then dremeling it about that same angle and slowly spinning the ring and sanding each side, each piece of dinosaur bone and each piece of opal. If you don't have a ring blank that will sit on the very edge of a mandrel like this one is, you can also do this by hand by taking it off of the mandrel and holding the Dremel at a similar angle and just doing it while you hold the ring. This one you have to be a little bit more careful when you're doing it by hand, by not holding it on the mandrel, just because you want to make sure that you hold it very steady so that you get a very smooth, even, consistent shape. But it's possible. I do it a lot. It'll just take a little bit of practice. So keep that in mind, that you need to be a little bit more patient as you're shaping these rings, just because they are a little bit different. All right, once I've done one side of the ring, I'm gonna go ahead and pull it off of the mandrel. And as you can see, I glued it to the mandrel. This happens almost every time. So I just take a little bit of time to remove that electrical tape and the excess CA adhesive that got on the inside of my ring, and then I'm gonna retape my mandrel, put the ring back on, but facing the other direction so that the side that I haven't already beveled is facing out away from the lathe. That way I can do the bevel on this side as well. So same thing, just holding it at a 45 or 50 degree angle and just going all the way around the ring, creating that bevel, giving the ring that shape that we're looking for. Once I'm done dremeling, I took a fairly large piece of 220 sandpaper, and we're just going to be sanding the entire thing with a wet sand. So I'm going to be pretty thorough here. We're looking to just round those bevels that we just made. You could try and leave them as a really crisp bevel, but I've found that the best way to create an even and nice finish for these rings is to give them a domed look. So I take the 220 and I'm just wrapping my fingers back and forth in a nice smooth motion to try and create an even domed look for this ring. So I'm just slowly working my way back and forth, sanding with the 220 sandpaper and just finishing off the shaping process of this ring. So it's going to be a little different for everyone because you will be happy with different shapes and different thicknesses, but I like mine a little bit thinner and a little bit more rounded. So we're just going to sand until you're happy with the shape of your ring. After that initial 220 sand and dremeling, we're going to go ahead and add a couple more layers of our super thin CA adhesive just to ensure that all of the cracks and crevices are filled back in that were uncovered while we were dremeling. We are going to do some more sanding, but we want to make sure that we have just an even surface so that we can get a nice smooth finish on our ring. After I've allowed those 2 layers of super thin CA adhesive to cure, we're going to go ahead and move on to our sanding process. For this one, I did 220, 500, and 1000. That's my go-to for every ring. It just really allows me to get a pretty solid finish on almost any material. There are some materials that I'll sand to a much higher grit, but for most glowstone inlay rings, up to 1000 allows us to get a pretty smooth, even, glossy finish. After that, we're going to go ahead and just use our liquid polish on this ring. It just allows us to get a really nice glossy, shiny finish on the ring. So we're going to use steps 1, 2, and 3 of the AstroTech polish and just do a thorough polishing on each step. Alright guys, I'm really happy with how this ring turned out. I really love the contrast between the apatite and the blue fire opal and the dinosaur bone. I really love the blues and the browns together. I think that they just look really nice, and I love how the opals catch the light. I think that being in a boundless form, this just really allows us to catch the light in so many different ways with the opal, allowing us to see a lot more color when we're just looking at the ring from the same angle, because there are so many different surfaces that are exposed. And I really love how this ring turned out. I hope you guys had a lot of fun making it. We'll probably be doing a lot more boundless things in the future just because they're a lot of fun, and we haven't really explored the boundless area as much as we could. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one as much as I did. Go ahead and let me know what you liked about this one down below in the comments. And remember to like and subscribe, as well as head over to Facebook and join our maker group.